Okay, morning everybody. Can you hear me? Make sure so you can
Yeah,
clear
we
me.
can.
All right, so let me just make sure. Okay, so today, so we are going to talk about economic basics of trade for trade. Basically, so we are going to rely on the PBF we discussed on Tuesday, and then so we are going to look at opportunity costs, and from there we will study the absolute advantage versus comparative advantage. And then so from this comparative advantage particularly, so we will understand so the specialization, and then so further we understand how we can benefit from trading with each other. Okay, so that's the main idea of this chapter. So here's the roadmap of this chapter. So we are going to look at three different things: absolute advantage, comparative advantage, and then so we learn how we can gain from trade. Okay. So this entire chapter basically, so we will focus on the theory of comparative advantage, right? And this theory of comparative advantage states it makes sense to produce the things you are especially good at producing and buy everything else from others, right? But here, so when we say the things you are especially good at producing, largely is measured or largely is based on the opportunity cost, okay? Opportunity cost of producing that things or the opportunity cost of doing that particular things, right? And then so you're going to buy or you're going to trade with others or you acquire the other things so that you have higher opportunity costs. So that's the idea of theory of comparative advantage. Okay, but the entire lecture is going to surrounding around this comparative advantage, right? Just give you a historical context, right? So this idea was originally proposed by David Ricardo. I should say probably was discovered. The idea was discovered by David Ricardo. Okay, and so just give you a historical background. So in late 18, around 1800, right? So in the English Parliament or British Parliament, so people was arguing about whether we should impose some tariff. Right? What is tariff? Tariff essentially is a tax on imported goods. Right? At that point of time, so the British Parliament was debating should we impose high tariff on imported grains. So why they want to do that is because so the imported grain becomes more expensive with this high tariff, and then the domestic households will choose domestic produced grains. So that is going to benefit the British landowner, right? So that's what they are discussing at that point of time. And then so David Ricardo, so he at that point he discovered the theory of comparative advantage, and then so he find out that's not a good choice if we simply impose high tariff so that we can protect British landowner. So he find out so that doesn't make much economic sense um, in a way. So that's going to cost the society extra money, right? And so he proposed this theory of comparative advantage. In terms of this theory of comparative advantage, is still the ideological foundation for free trade in 21st century. And furthermore, so this theory of comparative advantage becomes the foundation of globalization. But certainly there's a reversal of globalization, but that's not the topic of this class, right? But for now, we try to understand the foundation behind this globalization and why these the comparative advantage can help us or help the society to become more efficient. So that's the main topic of this class, right? Um, to understand to understand how we can benefit from trade and to understand the comparative advantage versus absolute advantage, let's look at examples. Okay, so I'm going to explain those concepts through a simple example. Right? So where we start, we assume we live in a world we only cares about two type of goods. Okay, again, so this is a simplification. So these two represent many, right? So essentially we use computer represent many high-tech things, and then so on the right-hand side, the shirt is going to represent some substance, like the basic things you need to survive, right? So this is without loss of generosity, right? So we use these two goods to represent many different type of goods and many kind of goods we consume, we produce in our society. Okay, so now let's just make our life easier in terms of analysis. Say we can only produce these two type of goods, and then we only consume these two type of goods. So this is where we start, right? So in order to explain comparative advantage, or in order to understand the benefit of trade, and certainly we need some trading partners, or we need to have different economies. Okay, so now let's say in the world, okay, again, this is a simplification. There are only two countries, right? And so more specifically, we assume there is Mexico versus United States. Okay, and it's also you can think about like US versus the rest of the world. Okay, it doesn't change the discussion. You can, or if you like, you can look at many countries. But so as long as you consider more than two countries, and then so at the end of the day, the theory is going to be the same. So you have more than two, it just simply makes things more complicated. Okay, so you're going to lose track of the analysis very quickly. So then here, to get sharp understanding of the theory of comparative advantage, so we will focus on two countries. Okay, we start with Mexico. Okay, so now let's look at how does the technology look like in Mexico, or what is the PBF looks like. Okay, in Mexico, we assume it takes 12 units of labor to make one computer and 2 units of labor to produce one shirt. Again, so this unit is you can interpret it with different way, right? So here maybe you can say like 12 individuals, sorry, maybe like 12 hours, okay? And here 2 units meaning like 2 hours, right? So that's, you have different way to interpret it. Now, in terms of graph, right? So these two picture is kind of represent their technology, right? So this equal sign in the middle doesn't means the value the same, just means in terms of productivity, right? So you take 12 unit of labors to make one computer and 2 unit of labors to produce one shirt. So this equal sign just gives you the technology. Now, to understand their PBF, we need to do a few calculations or a few illustrations. Now just suppose if Mexico devote all of their resource in producing computers, okay? And so because 12 units produce one computer, and then so 24 units will give us two computers, right? Or on the other hand, so this 12 on the left hand side of this picture is going to yield 2 computers on the right hand side. Okay, again, so this equal sign is only just give you an idea. So their ability to produce. Okay. Or alternatively, so if they allocate all the resource in producing shirt, and then so they can produce 12 shirts, right? Because every 2 labor will produce 1 shirt. We have 24 labors, and then 24 divided by 2 equal to 12. Again, so this equal sign just show us the productivity. Remember, when we talk about a PBF, which stands for production possibility frontier. Okay? So this PBF tells us what the economy can potentially produce at full employment. Okay? And so this PBF is about trade-off. In a sense, so if you produce more computer, and then so you will produce less shirt. If you want to increase the production of shirt, and then so you have to give up computer. Okay, so this is what this PBF about, and this PBF explain us the opportunity cost. Right. So now let's see what is the opportunity cost and then what is the trade-off the economy must face when they shift between computer and shirt, or when they decide the mixture of computer and shirt. Right. So each computer, as we learned from previous slides, is going to cost 12 workers. So we have these equal sign, right? But now remember, each two labor will give us one shirt. That means so these 12 laborers, in the meantime, if they do not produce computer, they can produce 6 shirts. So now we have another equality. So now if we combine these two equality, okay? If we combine these two equality, what are we going to get? So we are going to get the opportunity cost of computer, right? In order to produce one computer, we must give up 12 unit labor, which implies 6 unit of shirt. So that means computer is going to cost us 6 shirt in Mexico. So this 6 shirt is the opportunity cost of computer. And conversely, we can look at the opportunity cost of shirt in the same economy. One shirt will cost 2 labor. But these 2 labor, how much computer they can assemble, or how much computer they can put together. Because it takes 12 labors to put together a computer, and then these 2 labor can only give us 1/6 of computer, right? And then so in that sense, so these 2 equality will give us the opportunity cost of shirts. So one shirt will cost us 2 labors, which translate into 1/6 of computer. Or equivalently, so this one shirt has opportunity cost of 1/6 of computer. So this is in Mexico. Now we put everything together so we can plot Mexico's production possibility frontier, right? So on the upper right, so we have this table. So this table exactly just incorporate or add those information we just discussed, right? So if they allocate all resources in computer, so they produce 2. If they allocate all resources in shirt, they produce 12. And in the middle, so you have a mixture of computer and shirts. So we put everything on this diagram, and then so we have this straight line, okay, which means this straight line means the opportunity cost is constant, right? Remember in last class, I explained to you, so under certain circumstance, the opportunity cost can increase with the production, or in other words, in certain case, the PBF curve will look like this curve, right? But for now, so to simplify, we just assume a straight line, right? So this is in Mexico, right? Okay, so the by looking at the slope of this PBF, you can find out the opportunity cost, right? So for example, so if we calculate slope, I mean, look at this dimension, and then the slope is going to be 2 divided by 12. That's equal to 1/6. That's exactly the shirt opportunity cost. On the other hand, if we look at from this dimension, and then so the slope, if we look at this dimension, the slope will be 12 divided by 2, right? So that's equal to 6. So that is the opportunity cost of computer. Okay. So now let's look at two practice questions. Erin has a choice between two activities. She can repair 1 transmission per hour, or she can repair 2 fuel injectors per hour. What is the opportunity cost of repairing 1 fuel injectors? Okay, so there are many ways to do that. So let's use equations. I mean, this equality as we saw earlier. So if she has 1 hour, so she can either repair 1 transmission, or she can repair 2 fuel injectors. Now the question asks you, what is the opportunity cost of fuel injector? So if she repair 2 fuel injectors, she give up 1 hour, which implies she is giving up the possibility to produce 1 transmission, right? So that means the opportunity cost of fuel injector is 1 divided by 2, right? So this cost on the numerator. Denominator is the benefit. Okay, so the answer is B. Now let's look at another practice questions. David can write either 1 more book this year or 5 more articles this year. What is the opportunity cost of writing half a book? So again, so 1 year, so equal to 1 book or 5 articles. Now be careful. So this question asks you, what is the opportunity cost of writing half book? And then so he give up half year. So that means give up 2.5 articles. Right? So this is the second practice question. Right? Make sure you understand. Let me know if you have any questions. Right? So now we move to other part of the world to understand the trade. Right? So now we move to south. We enter the United States. Okay? And then the United States, it has different technology, or it has different PBF. Let's see what does the PBF look like in United States in this hypothetical economy. Right? So in the United States, to simplify, we say it also has the same amount of labor, which is 24 units. Okay? But the labor productivity differs quite significantly compared with Mexico. Okay? Now here, we say in the United States, it takes 1 unit of labor to produce either a shirt or a computer. Or in other words, so these 24 units of labor can give us 24 units of shirt, or can produce 24 units of computer. Okay. And then similarly, we can look at the opportunity cost of shirt and the opportunity cost of computer in the United States. And you will find out the opportunity cost is different compared with Mexico. But this difference in opportunity cost give us the comparative advantage. Okay. Let's first look at the opportunity cost. So in the United States, so one shirt costs 1 unit of labor. But this 1 unit of labor can produce 1 computer. And then immediately from here, you can see, so 1 shirt costs 1 computer, or the opportunity cost of shirt in the United States is 1 computer. just remind you what is the opportunity cost of shirts in Mexico, which was 1/6. Okay, so this is shirts. Now we look at the opportunity cost of, oh, sorry. To finish this part, the opportunity cost of computer in the United States will be 1 shirt, or in other words, so the ratio is 1:1. All right. So now we can put these two countries together and then take a closer look by comparing their opportunity costs, right? On the left-hand side is Mexico, on the right-hand side is United States, right? So in Mexico, one computer is going to cost 6 shirts. In United States, one computer is going to cost 1 shirt, right? So let me write down here. So this is going to cost 6 shirts and it costs 1 shirt. On the other hand, so in Mexico, 1 shirt is going to cost 1/6 of computer. In the United States, 1 shirt is going to cost 1 computer. All right. So now let's just pause for a few minutes, and so we continue our discussion after a short break.